So I was in hospital for a long time, and like many other patients, while being in hospital, I actually got some extra diseases. In my case, it was a liver infection from a bad blood transfusion. And for a long time, they didn't know what it was, and they kept on trying and trying to figure it out. And they just didn't know, but from time to time, it would flare up and wreak havoc on my recovery. And then about 7 years later, it flared up again. I went to hospital and discovered what it was. It was hepatitis C. And the good news was that there was a treatment, experimental treatment they were trying called interferon. And basically they gave me these injections and they say, take those injections, hopefully this would work out for you. But for me, these injections were kind of the basic human dilemma, the basic human conundrum. And here's the problem. I really didn't want to die from liver cirrhosis. I mean, who would? Well, it's an awful death. But at the same time, this injection gave me a guaranteed misery for the next few hours, about 12 to 16 hours. Every time I would take this injection, I would get a fever and vomiting and shaking and headaches, really unpleasant. Nothing compared to liver cirrhosis, but for sure and in the short term. So I took these injections 3 times a week for a year and a half. We have things like these injections all the time. It's when we ask ourselves, should we diet now? Not good for now, but good for the future. And often we fail. Should we exercise? Not fun now, but good for the future. Should we check our text message while driving? Good for now, really, really not good for even the really immediate future. And in all of those cases, eating, saving, dieting, healthcare, we make this mistake that we overemphasize the present over the long term. And the truth is that for me and every other patient in the protocol, the desire to have a healthy liver should have won over the immediate case. But here's what happens. When we look at the immediate case, we have liver, which is very important, and injections, which are not that important. But that's not how we look at things. We also have the time dimension. And because the liver is far in the future, we view it as much less important. And because of the injections are now in the present, we view them as more important. Anyway, I went back to the hospital for routine checks, and when the year and a half of these miserable injections were over, the doctors told me that I was cured, and they told me that I was the only patient they ever had that took their medication on time. And the question is, of course, how could I do it? Do I have nerves of steel? Do I have better self-control than anybody? And the answer is no. If you had a shot of my belly, you would recognize that I succumbed to temptation just like everybody else. So I did invent a trick for myself. And that trick helped sustain me through this year and a half. And the trick is that I love movies. If I had time, I would watch lots and lots of movies. So what I did was every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, which were injection days, I would go to the video store, I would rent 2 or 3 movies I really wanted to see. I would carry them in my backpack the whole day, anticipating watching them. I would come home, I would give myself the injection, I would pop a movie in. I didn't wait for the side effects to start. I just started the movie immediately after the injection. I had the blanket, I had the bucket, I was all ready for the side effects to come over and to deal with them. But I started the movie right now. Now here's the basic issue. Did I really start caring about my liver? No, I cared about movies. Now, livers are important, movies not that important in the big scheme of things, but because the liver was long in the future, I couldn't care about it. So I made myself behave as if I cared about my liver by actually caring about movies. And we call this reward substitution. And I think it's actually a very general principle. There's lots of stuff in life that we have a really hard time caring about. Our long-term health, long-term saving, global warming, you name it. And what we can do in all of those cases is to try and get people to deeply care. But I think this attempt would vastly fail. Or instead, we can think about solutions like my movies that would create reward substitution, solution that would make us behave as if we care about those long-term things. Now, what does this have to do with behavioral economics? In a sense, this is the basics for me of behavioral economics. There's lots of stuff in life in which we behave irrationally. We don't behave necessarily in our best interest, and we have to understand why we behave a certain way, what are the causes, and ask ourselves, can we change the environment? Can we do things to actually improve the human condition? So the idea of movies or other solutions for self-control mechanism are actually, I think, a key to get people to behave better.